Alright guys, we are back here for the Oceanic Online Qualifier, or the Oceanic Championships Online Qualifier I should say, and we got a spicy one cooked up for you guys for the next one. A lot of you requested it in the chat, and your prayers have in fact been answered. It is a classic sports rivalry, I guess, that we're taking to the esports field. It is Australia versus New Zealand, and it is, I guess, Australia's finest versus New Zealand's finest. Immunity are going to be playing up against Volf goes Rwar. My name, of course, is Pastry Time and Papa Smithy. Let's do it.
Yeah, and look, Australia and New Zealand teams obviously will make up probably 95 to 98% of this qualifier. Two very strong teams from each continent coming into a battle here. This was definitely the game when I was looking at the brackets. I was like, where are these interesting games? You know, sometimes it's hard. Teams are using new names. I don't know all the players. I know this is going to be an interesting match.
Absolutely, and it's a little unfortunate that somebody has to go home here, unfortunately, but that's just kind of how it works. A tournament this big, sometimes things will happen and two big teams will run into each other. We are going to get things started off nice and quickly here. Thank you, of course, all for patiently waiting. We are trying to reduce the downtime between games as we go, but as we said, with 800 plus teams, things are a little hectic right now, but of course, stay patient and we will endeavor to bring things to you as soon as we possibly can. Lee Sin getting a bandit here by Immunity to start things off. Thresh there, the bandit from VGR. Evelyn getting banned up very quickly here, so at least Immunity seem to have their finger on the buzzer in terms of what they want to be banning out nice and swiftly here. And a bit more consideration here for this next ban now for VGR, but they are going to go with Blitzcrank.
Yeah, so just some quick, fast and fun bans. I mean, Lee Sin was probably the champion I expected to be the most in vogue today. I don't know about your experience, but just playing some solo normalness, but just playing normal games on this server, everyone's excited to get their insect mechanics out there and do some crazy things with the low latency.
I have, in fact, been enjoying Lee Sin, yes. So I can certainly sympathize with that. It's been a lot of fun. Twisted Fate here, going to get banned out there. Have not seen him around for a little while. I guess we haven't been around for a little while, but Twisted Fate's still a very strong champion. And Jace here, as you noted in our last game, Papa, you seem to think that Jace might be the strongest champ in the league, actually, at the moment. So he's going to get the final ban here for VGR.
And if you look here, 2 target bans at probably the person you might look at and not recognize on the Immunity side here. I'm Rosie Intel, which of course is Andrew, or better known as
It is Venom.
So
it is Venom.
It's good to see him back there with his new name, which again, very close to his real name.
Yes, I believe there were some issues with getting their names.
Sniping accounts?
There may have been some sniping, yes. I believe
that. That's kind of the new server way, right? That's something that people will do, and
yes.
Maybe that will be organized in the future. Maybe the admins or the rioters can go on there and get them their designated accounts. But for now, I'm Rosie Intel.
Yeah, I believe that the players, yes, of course, are still the same. Alicia, actually, she was I guess Eclipse here before, and Domo before that. He said, just go ahead and call me Alicia. So we're going to go with that. That's, I guess, the next ID he's chosen for himself, but that is Venom, aka Rosie. And the other one you probably recognize, but maybe you're wondering, hey, is that person? Is that someone else? So that is actually Swiper, because I guess that is one of the quirks of this tournament, is that unfortunately, due to age restrictions, Asian Maddie could not play.
That's correct. Both Maddie from Immunity and from our first seeds, which is, of course, Frey Umart, Easter Ice isn't able to play as well because of the age restrictions. I actually did go out there and float a Immunity Academy or an X5 Academy kind of idea just to keep these guys in the competitive scene, but they didn't go for it this time.
Next time, it's okay. But I guess everyone else in love for both these teams, that is still Heavens, that is still Radier, and then of course Ricey, he, and NZ Stealth Snowpuff, and
so is it he or he?
I'm not sure.
We'll probably just call him
H5 maybe,
or whatever champion he ends up with. Otherwise, it's a bit terror. But oh well.
Yeah, and so I guess back to the picks. Jarvan first picked up here from Immunity. We've got Udyr and Tristana. Interestingly, the first 2 pickups there for Volf goes Rwar, and now a very, I personally say awesome. And something that seems like it might be picking up some speed, but Nami Vayne is the pickup here from Immunity. Now, Vayne is a champion that Radier loves, and so I'm not particularly surprised to see him there. Nami is the support that seems to just slowly but surely, especially with the latency on the server being quite ideal, been really picking up a lot of speed. Nami is really, really good.
And one thing I can tell you is that she's fantastically strong against Udyr. Probably going to be a jungle Udyr here, but of course, Udyr's problem, getting kited. That's his ultimate fear. And the tidal wave, just so much disruption for Udyr, who wants to bear stance to the closest target. So I mean, that's not even taking into account if you've been watching OG and you've been seeing 4 or 5 person aqua prisons. You know, a 1.5 second stun on a fairly short cooldown as a regular ability is a fantastically strong thing for a support to have access to.
Yeah, she's really, really good, and she's been picking up play for that reason. So nice to see it picked up here over by the Australians. Looks like Sona plus Ryze are the pickups here for VGR. They're going to go with, I guess, Tristana, Sona bottom lane most likely, or dual lane, wherever they decide to put them. And Ryze, usually seen in the mid lane, but potentially could actually go up the top lane. That is something we saw a little bit more of, it seemed like a few weeks ago. Haven't seen it as much recently, but is certainly a thing now, top Ryze.
Look, it definitely is, and it kind of came about as a reaction to some of the nerfs, some of the minion nerfs in terms of minion damage, some of the changing in popular top laners. But if you can get away with a Ryze top and not get ganked to hell, or really, have a really bad matchup, he scales so well. He shows up in mid game with that Rod of Ages, potentially a Seraph's Embrace, so much health, so much AP, so much mana. And he just gets stronger from there. So it's one of those cases where it can be a calculated risk, but if it pays off big.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, we traditionally think of mid lane champions as, CC heavy sort of. I mean, yes, often a lot of burst damage, but, they've got good burst and they've got the CC to back up. So they can really help be kind of like the crux in a team fight where, which either way it swings, they can either be defensive with the CC or aggressive with it, and they can kind of play the team fight that way and use their burst where it really matters. Ryze is definitely a different sort of AP where he's got a good CC in Rune Prison. It's a very, very strong instant cast snare, which you can really catch people unawares with. But Ryze is definitely known for his good survivability and just crazy, crazy damage, especially AoE damage when he turns his ultimate on. And looks like we might actually be seeing top Ryze here. And as you said, if you can get away with top Ryze, it's fantastic. Not just because Ryze himself, as you said, scales so well into the late game, it opens up a very heavy CC champion in your mid to kind of fulfill that traditional CC portion of your team comp. And when we talk about CC, Lissandra is pretty good when it comes to having boatloads of CC.
We were talking about Ryze top. Lissandra top's actually been picking up a lot of steam. I saw MacNoon playing that for KT Rolls to A. I believe Soaz has been playing it in Europe. It's another one where she doesn't really have the mana constraints a lot of champions have. She has that passive, and she also has fantastic wave clear with her Qs. So they have a very flexible team here, Volf goes Raw. So I'm excited to see how this all lines up in the end. I think the only thing I can say for sure, probably going to be an Udyr jungle.
Yeah, well, the Lissandra top sounds pretty sweet, but I mean, the principle is the same in either case, in that you have Ryze's damage and you have Lissandra's CC. So I guess double AP, welcome back. It's been a little while. I mean, you popped up here and then, but this feels like a very, very true to Season 2 double AP sort of comp when you have Lissandra Ryze. You've got the strong CC, you've got the ability to pick people off in skirmish situations if you're roaming together, and then, of course, you've got the great burst damage and great initiation that comes from just all the things that AP champions can do. So pretty excited to see what VGR have cooked up here. It's pretty nice. I like what's going on. Immunity, though, I think definitely have a comp they're very, very comfortable with. We're going to actually have Zac in the top lane. It seems like they're going to be played by Swiper. Heavens, of course, in the mid on Orianna. It looks like Java in their jungler. And then, as we mentioned already, we're going to have Naomi plus Vayne as their duo lane.
So again, even though we have the teleport pickup, as we can start removing summoner spells now, if observers listening, not really still clear whether we're going to see a Lissandra or a Ryze top. I mean, it's flexible there. They'll be against a Zac. Lane Zac is such a horrible lane to gain just because even when you finally get that successful gank off, that passive can sometimes ruin it and just make your effort kind of for naught. So it'll be interesting whether they go for kind of a farm fest lane with either of these AP mages.
I think for the most part, VGR are pretty happy just having kind of a safe farm lane though for, again, whoever they want to send up there. I mean, if top turns into a farm fest, I think the team with the Ryze is pretty happy with that. I'm really not sure how they're going to land. I think with the teleport, I kind of am erring on the side of top lane Ryze, but you do never know. As you noted, Lissandra top definitely picking up as well, so could go either way here.
I mean, teleport top's actually an interesting one. I mean, on Shen, if you really think you're going to lose the lane, you're all about your stand united. You take teleport so that you can stand united, then teleport back, right? But if you're Ryze, if you ever teleport, your turret's going down. Like, it's not as advantageous on a top laner like that. You might want to just sit Lissandra there, have her farm it out, and then just have a free farm Lissandra and a free farm Zac in a team fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like farm preferences, you definitely rather Ryze have the more fun. But you might be right if you're looking to actually utilize teleport. That mid might be the better spot for Ryze there. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head which members of VGR play which role. So I guess we're gonna have to find out when we get into the game.
Speculate anyway.
It is definitely more fun to speculate. I agree. Other than that,
and
I think
it's just one of those things where Dyrus was talking about taking teleport on top lanes, and he was just basically like, if you're taking teleport and you want to be competitive in a lane, like you need that ignite for lane control. If you don't have ignite, it just opens up turret dives, it opens up aggression from the enemy team because they know you just have one less tool in a trade. And with Zac, who already has a passive that makes him just that bit more scary in lane, I think it's a big risk to send Ryze up there. But it could potentially be something we see.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and find out. 30 seconds to go until the big mystery will be solved. I'm sure chat is screaming out who's playing who, but
chat has been screaming non-stop since we started. We got some of the dongers out of there. Like the donger meme was well represented, so I understand. It's nice to have a bit of freedom with the Australian friends, but chat's excited, Pastry Time. And why wouldn't you be? It's the first day of basically everything to do with Australian esports.
Yeah, and there
are
Oceanic
esports. As again, I must correct myself.
Yeah, there are a lot of Oceanic esports coming up.
Sorry to all you New Zealanders, New Caledonians, Fijians, and anyone else joining us today.
Yeah, pretty much every single day, you guys are going to get the chance to watch some League of Legends. It seems like we've got all today and all tomorrow, of course, starting midday both times. And
Raise Your Kangaroos is the new one, which
I saw that.
We can give that a little bit more legs if.
There was a fantastic screenshot that somebody posted, which I'll have to link in the chat sometime later, or maybe I'll tweet it. But someone just had a screenshot of Twitch chat, and it was just nothing but dongers. It was pretty glorious, actually.
Nothing but dongers. This is a post I'm a Cutie Pie stream world, Pastry Time.
Yes, it is. So thanks, guys. Thanks for showing your enthusiasm one way or the other. So it's been great to have you all here, and hope you stay.
As I say, I see message deleted all over our chat. I did this, Pastry Time. We did this.
You tempted fate. Why would you do this?
And a lot of nice borders coming out here, so that kind of gives you an idea of where we're at. I mean, definitely more plats, or the Elysia representing the silver border up on Immunity. But it's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah. I mean, Immunity, I said it before, they are Australia's finest. They are, I think, the team to beat for a lot of people going into any event that involves Australia. I mean, we've opened it up a little more, of course. It is Oceania. Instead of just, kind of the regular Australia plus a couple of teams from New Zealand. It is great to see New Zealand represented here as well. VGR, I think, as far as I know, the top team from New Zealand as well.
They're up there, that's for sure.
Yeah, this should be a great match. But whenever you look at a tournament that's in Australia, you always have to think, how are we going to beat Immunity? Because 99% of the time, they're going to be there at some point if you want to win a tournament. So,
and they have that insurance policy, and we always, maybe we spend too much time talking about them, but Rady is, probably the Australian player feared the most. Heavens also gets his fair share of respect, but Rady on that hypercarry, on that vein, you just know that even if Volf gets that early lead, if there's ever the sound of a triple or quadra-kill coming out of Radia, this game can turn on an instant.
Yeah, and it almost feels like Immunity part of me feels like they've built a comp to really protect Radia in some way. Like, Nami is a support that really
synergizes well with the champion. New type of comp for them, then.
Yeah, totally new.
Novel. The Radia comp, you say.
Never, ever happened. I've never seen it before in League of Legends, especially here in Australia when we watch Immunity play. I mean, but Nami, in all seriousness, is a support that definitely supports a champion like Vayne very, very well, and I think that kind of makes sense. I do like that the sort of triple bruiser initiation squad they've got going on. I think Orianna, as we always mention, needs a ball carrier. She needs someone to carry it in with her and do the wombo comboing, and both Zac and Jarvan are very, very good at carrying the ball in. So I like that kind of little trifecta of initiation awesomeness that could potentially go on. I mean, we talk about Radio. I think a lot of this game, and this comp in particular, is going to be centered around how well Heavens can do in terms of his ball placement and CC, because Orianna is a champion that you absolutely must play correctly position-wise. I think you said it actually to me that, the problem with Orianna is that sometimes you do actual no damage.
Well, if if the ball misses, if ever a scenario came out where you either fat finger it or you just have the ball in a bad spot, none of your other spells do anything. Like, you can releash it to someone else, but then you're losing out on a lot of damage. Like, there's a lot of potential downside with Orianna if not played optimally. So there isn't many champions in the game who can't really do much if one of their core spells doesn't go wrong.
Yep, nice ward there from VGR, by the way. They're setting up the level 1 there. Looks like IM maybe want to go in for it, but Everybody just being pretty cautious. Really great ward. They're just kind of behind their own red buff there as well. But looks like Immunity going to place down their wards now as well. Ward's going to place down beautiful teamwork there to make sure that ward goes down. And it sucks so much when your wards get denied. Just wards. Wow, so many wards. Just this red buff clearly hotly contested. Alicia maybe wanted to go in there, but just poke being thrown out. Jarvan with the banner. Of course, cannot knock up until level 2. Needs his Q for that. It looks like Immunity going to back off from this one. I think they've decided to give it up, it looks like. And we may be having a swap here, because Swiper is the one on Zac currently going back to base.
It was an interesting kind of meeting of the minds there, because technically Volf had position on Immunity. Immunity did not have an obvious retreat path, but I guess maybe they judged their level 1 wasn't strong enough to take down a team fight, but in the end, Udyr comes out of the red side jungle with his buff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of wards being put down as well. I mean, there's still plenty on both teams, actually, so they can certainly get the wards they need out. But, I mean, in that instance, I think VGR are just better to play it safe. You really don't want to mess up a level 1 like that. And I think they feel confident enough in their play to be able to take Immunity on a fair game. I mean, as you've mentioned, especially on a carry like Vayne, you really have to make sure that she doesn't get too much CS. But, I mean, with this nice 2v1 swap here for Immunity, they're going to have a pretty easy lane here. It looks like the Sandro, who is top lane, by the way, nice call, is just going to hang out and try and do the farming.
And I guess the good thing for Volf here is that...
Oh, great Aqua Prison. That's a lot of damage. Actually, Ignite being used. Their damage coming in. Silverbox first blood. Instantly popped there for Immunity. Taking full advantage of that low ping and that great Nami stun.
I recognize I was a couple of seconds behind the player there, so not sure about Observer, but do accelerate to live with that fast forward button.
Yeah, that's one of the things with pauses, unfortunately.
Yes, understandable, but yeah, I mean, they do have Tristana Volf here, so they did kind of have the hyper carry of their own, but now Radio's already got them going.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned that, you know, Vayne definitely wants to keep on some sort of leash here, but with that first blood already coming out, poor Lissandra just completely popped there by a fantastic Aqua Prism coming out from Venom. He was, of course, playing under the ID Rosie this time around. Looks like Swiper here, just, you know, taking CS where he can get it, trying to keep his tower up for as long as possible. We actually already saw Alicia come down here and just kind of protect Zac, do a little bit of babysitting almost. You know, there's no intention to gank here, really. It's Jarvan knows it's really, really difficult to try and pull anything off here. So it's honestly just hang around, you know, give Zac a little bit of help until the last inning. Basically play like a support back. Get a knock up Ricey here. Looking for the gank. Maybe Zac flashes forward. Their damage coming in. And very aggressive play there coming out. Unfortunately, my client seems to have disconnected from me. So hopefully you can hear me, Papa Smithy. Otherwise, we could have some problems.
I can hear you. Unfortunately, you went a bit scratchy there, Smith. You want to investigate your internet. Despite the fact that we're on Australian servers, Australian internet's still very unreliable at times.
Alright, if you can't hear me, I will do that. I will investigate my internet. But give me 1 second, I seem to be disconnected. I apologize, I'll be right back.
No worries. So just looking at the game here again, that was indeed a kill picked up by Zac there. So Swiper feeling good about this 1v2 lane, despite the numbers disadvantage. And just standard laning here, but Immunity already have a pretty big foothold in this game. 4 minutes in. And it'd be interesting, it just remains to be seen what the Udyr pick is going to do here for Volf. Like, Udyr is a champion who, if he gets going, if he can ever get ahead, I mean, that ability to chain stun, that ability to just be a nuisance to every lane is super strong. But if Udyr ever gets behind, it kind of exemplifies his weaknesses, right? He needs to get into that melee range. He needs to run in there and get the stun off. And it can be very difficult. They have a lot of tools here, Immunity, for disengage. And at the moment, it just looks like NZ Stealth will just have to help the lanes. He'll have to sit up top and try and help the lanes as much as possible here. Otherwise, you know, Lissandra, we were talking about her potential in a duel, and she does have that 1v1 top potential. It's not a bad pick for that. In a 1v2 situation, she's not like Kennen, where you can start Doran's Blade and be really confident about last hitting at the turret and staying alive. She just doesn't have that. She has her ability to blink kind of like, but it doesn't work that way. It can be interrupted. It's unreliable, has a very long cooldown. She's just not the safest top laner. As we try and see how Pastry Time's doing with his issues here. Okay, he's trying to reconnect to the game, so apologies for you guys. Doing my best to fill time. Usually it's Pastry Time with the lots of talking. I do have a bit of a cold, and I'm mostly about the analysis, but I'll try and do my best, guys, till we get Pastry back in here. But it's just standard laning right now. I mean, If we look at the lane matchups, Orianna versus Ryze, you see that a lot in the LCS. When you do see Ryze, I mean, this is a kind of matchup you see quite a lot. Orianna doesn't have a lot of kill potential without a gank there. Ryze, again, he kind of has to choose between using his mana for last hitting or pushing the lane. He does have lane control problems, so he'll do his best, but not exactly a high kill potential mid lane without ganks. And up top, I guess that's the area where, Radia's already ahead. He's picked up the early kill. And with a pretty poor 1v2 or just an average 1v2 laner in Lissandra, I mean, Nami can try and pressure for the kills here, although we do see Udyr having a lot of presence up top to stop that. Or Nami can roam. We've seen Edward, we've seen other people roam into other lanes and try and cause pressure around the map. Immunity are probably very confident about having a Vayne versus Lissandra 1v1 matchup. Okay, so Paige are doing a couple of other things, so stuck with just me right now, so apologies, guys. Again, thankfully not too much action. I don't know if my voice could hold up to a breathless shoutcast, but right now things are just comfortable. Look at the gold lead here, 1.2k, which is, again, mostly just the 2 kills. That's about the same opening we saw last game when CLG Fiji took an early lead with a couple of kills. No global objectives yet. Which I guess is to the credit of Volf here. I mean, when they lost that early first blood, if Udyr hadn't been so centered on helping out top lane, this turret could have gone down a long time ago, but it's about half health here, which is healthy enough. In fact, even though Swiper picked up a kill, even though there's been that assistance down bottom, it looks like we might see bot turret go down first here. Couple hits away, and yes, first global objective surprisingly goes down for Volf, so well played to them. As I remember the name of the Tristana here, or he, depending on how you look at it. I know it's not Hoi Hoi, but I'll leave it as it is. And it might be the answering turret up here. We see 3 members up top, no one to defend it. But very smart adaptation here. It does look like first dragon at 8 minutes 59, 9 minutes ticking now, will come down for Vosko's role. So again, you can kind of see that these are 2 teams that know what they want to do. They're able to respond to pressure up top with an objective, an immunity now, I guess, thinking that they've lost dragon here, even pushing towards a second turret, but no, we see the recalls coming out from their bot lane. I guess a best of Volf NZ is now in the mid lane. I guess maybe they weren't happy with how the lane matchups turned out. I don't know this for a fact, but it does kind of feel like Volf are following the Korean adage, and this is something that, of course, TSM had done with their announced role swap, which tended to be, was a lot of talk into nothing, is that, both solo laners kind of have to have the ability to go into either lane, right? You can't just be a top lane player, you can't just be a mid lane player. It depends on your champ pools. The champions that are in vogue right now can go into both lanes. They've seen that range farm in top much more than those bruisers, so you need to be flexible, and I'm sure Best Volv NZ, New Zealand, I imagine, is just as adept in the mid lane as he is up top, as he goes, and he's also picking up the blue buff, which is a nice little advantage for him here. Checking to see any signs of pastry time, none detected so far. We finally see standard lanes down bottom. Now, we did not see this lane matchup from the start, so I guess we can start comparing to see how the lane swap has affected both lanes. We see most of a Blade of the Ruined King here for Tristana, and probably about equal power level in terms of items here, because, I mean, the Berserker's Greaves, I think, technically will give slightly more attack speed to Radia, but they're very even. I guess the advantage of swapping back down for Radia and Rosie is that they get to pick up the double golems here, so they keep their CS up. Checking over to the gold lead here, about 180 gold, like a negligible amount of gold, probably just consumables lead for Radia in terms of the AD carries. And late game, I mean, it's kind of a throw-up as to which AD carry will be more effective. I think like Tristana objectively is a stronger late game carry. She has 2 escapes. She has an escape and a pushback. You know, she has CCs to be able to survive. She has that amazing attack speed steroid. She has 153, I believe, range advantage over over Vayne in the late game. But this comp is all about radio. We've got the AoE CC from the Let's Bounce coming out from Zac. We've got the AoE CC from Orianna. We've got the AoE CC from Java. And we've got the AoE CC from Nami. So it's a happy time to be a hyper carry for Immunity, and this is just how Immunity often line up. They know, as we see, a huge engage coming out from Lissandra in the mid lane. To her death, unfortunately. It wasn't the best timed, it seemed. Seeing how Pastry's going. He's reset his router, so hopefully he'll be back in soon, having some issues there. But despite all these early kills, only a 900 gold lead for Immunity coming out here, which again suggests some fantastic CSing coming out from Volf as well. They're kind of matching the build-up we've had to this game. We know they're one of the strongest teams in New Zealand, and they're certainly doing fairly well in their lane so far. That Dragon obviously equalizing a lot of the gold there, but they're staying competitive despite, not losing any heart despite those early kills. In the mid lane, we've got a 3v3 almost ARAM happening here. They're trying to get some damage onto the Immunity mid lane turret, but no one's having any of it. Down bottom lane, Lissandra hanging way back here. I guess they're looking for potential turret dive on this Tristana. Looking very juicy last hitting a turret, but not getting a lot done as best Volf NZ. And we look at the CS values, she's kind of hurting. I mean, she's 4 ahead of her lane opponent, but I mean, Lissandra's going to be more farm intensive than Zac. That's just the reality. Zac's going to build tank candidacies. Oh, we see a fight coming out here. Rosie's caught, will die here, but a lot of damage coming out in the radio. Flag toss combo comes up. No flash available for Ryze. And there goes the kill on Ryze. And radio gets out. Sport comes through from Orianna. Going to be able to last hit. And a 3-for-1 trade for Immunity. They'll take that. And Radius survives. Picks up his Bay the Ruin King. He's now that amazing duelist. Worrying times for Volf, I think, here, guys. Up top, I mean, Swipe has been able to just put pressure down this top lane here. Lissandra's going to come up, stop too much turret damage from going down, but Immunity looking happy. I mean, they've got the kills on the board. Only Nami so far has fallen. I really like this Spirit Visage rush from Zac here. I mean, Zac, a resourceless champion, of course, has health costs, but now every Bloblet's going to give more health. He's got 20% cooldown reduction. He's against double AP. Just a lovely place to be in as Heavens picks up another kill here. And after a fairly equal start, things starting to get a bit crazy for Volf here. Immunity are starting to get way ahead here. Pressure coming onto the mid tower here. Only Sona for wave clear, and she can't do too much or she'll meet her peril. Level 7 Sona, pretty squishy. It looks like Lissandra probably wanted to put some turret damage down up the top lane here. Wasn't able to do that. Forced to come back for wave clear. And that's probably a good sign to you, the viewer, that the game's been played on Immunity's terms. If you can't split push, if you're never in a position to make a beeline for an enemy turret and push, you're instead reacting to the enemy, that's a good sign that you're losing the game. That's a good sign that you're playing at the pace of your enemy. And Immunity are a team who've shown time and time again that they know how to win when they're ahead, and they're able to capitalize on enemy mistakes if they're ever behind. Checking to see any life from Pastry Time. None detected so far. Worrying. There's flashbacks to some sad times with previous casts, but hopefully he'll get everything organized. Nice Aqua Prism coming up. Stunning Tristana there. I'll have to back away. But with all this AoE CC we've discussed, worrying for immunity to be allowed to team fight here, and that might come to Freya here. No one for Radiant to free hit, eventually gets onto Sandra. She's going to be in a lot of trouble despite being able to go untargetable with that ultimate. Falls down. So far 2 for 0 at the start of this fight. Potential for the rest of the team to kite, but immunity feeling very, very confident though. It's just probably not smart to contest a dragon against a team who you know are ahead. You know, you can look at the kill score, you can look at the global objectives, the turrets to know that you're behind this game, who have that much AoE luck up. When you have the 4 AoE CCs, potentially 5 if you count, depending on how you look at abilities like Cataclysm and the Aqua Prison, they have so much AoE CC they could afford to miss 1 or 2, and they know their AD carries Vayne, you know, that she will do that damage if she's free hitting. Some sort of AoE CC is going to hit the enemy here, and Radiant is going to be able to free hit. So just so many opportunities here to get damage down for immunity. And Volf, how to win for Volf? That's, I mean, the issue here. If I had time to think, I'd be thinking, how can Volf get back into this game? Like last game we talked about, you know, we noticed that Team Pushek was way behind, right? They needed to do something. They need to group and get picks, and that's the potential here. Look, we see Radius farming down bottom, the rest of the team's dispersing, picking up their own buffs. This is the sort of point where if you just 5-manned, used everything on one person and picked up a kill, maybe you could pick up the next dragon. Maybe you could get aggressive wards down or a vision advantage over at Baron, but there's not a lot of right choices when you're this far behind. We talked about following Immunity's lead in terms of the play for Volf right now, and they're still doing that. They're just trying to pick up as much CS as possible. They know they have that late game hyper carries in Ryze and Tristana, and they're just really hoping that Immunity don't take too many objectives before they can really get into those late game item builds. I think one thing to notice here, or as we see, I was watching Jarvan aggressively take some wards out. He picks up another one there. The one thing you can notice here is that Immunity has all the aggressive wards here, and that's what you do when you're ahead. When you're in this position as a team that's ahead, you go down, you try and put down as many aggressive wards as possible, because if you're in a 9-1 lead, if you've got 3 turrets down, you've got all the outer turrets down, so you have that ability to see more of the map undetected by the enemy. You get your aggressive wards down, and you take away the enemy buffs. In this sort of game, Immunity will be saying, if you listen to the event that we're talking about, there should be no situation where Volf goes Rwar able to get free buffs just because they should have the wards down. And we see here, getting caught at their red buff, Cataclysm comes in, Heaven's stunned here, dies instantly, isn't able to use the shockwave, but Radius free hitting from the back, actually uses Flash aggressively as an AD carry. Shows you how he feels about this current engage. Looks like Udy's going to fall down. And so far, 1 for 3 again. It's going to be more. This is going to be a complete ace for Immunity. I say that with the benefit of knowing that, no, Radia finally takes enough turret hits to be forced away. So just the 4 kills, but 5-0-2 Vayne at 19 minutes. It's a good spot to be in for Immunity. Make that 6-0-2 or 6-1-2 as he gets last hit by the turret here. Oh. This is probably the most words I've ever said in a cast. Do apologize that Patreon Time isn't here to do play-by-play. My voice is just not really a play-by-play voice, right? It'd be a bit weird if I had to do play-by-play too often. I'm doing my best here, guys. Apologies for that. Hopefully we'll get that all sorted for the next game. But at the moment, a real commanding lead coming out for Immunity here. They'll be feeling good. 14-5. And their man, their carry, the guy they always try to get on the back of, that Vayne, that Radia, or Raider as he currently is, I believe. I'm Radia Intel sniped. Doing very well for himself. 6-1-2 has the Blade of the Ruin King into the Phantom Dancer here. And it's interesting to see he's gone with that build. That's the build that Imp will go to, MVP Ozone Imp from the OGN Spring Champions. MVP Ozone always loves to pick up that Blade of the Ruin King just to cement any trades and win any of those 1v1 skirmishes into the Phantom Dancer. So that's all about free hitting. That's all saying, hey, I want to be able to get maximum amount of auto attacks as possible, maximize the damage out of my W, out of those silver bolts, and just get as much damage in as possible. And it's not as good about DPSing down one target necessarily in a team fight. It's more about, do I trust my team to allow me to free hit for as long as possible? And with as much AoE CC as I've discussed, I don't think Radiant has much to worry about there. Also massively strong, let's say, the Blade of the Ruined King is a massively strong pickup against Udyr, because of course, you get faster, he gets slower, he doesn't have any other gap closing mechanics. Very, very hard for an Udyr to get onto a Blade of the Ruined King vein.
Blue team's turret has been...
My phone tells me that we will not be seeing Fishtime for this game. I think he's doing a reset as we see the Shockwave come out here. Cataclysm follows up. People are exploding on the Volf goes Royal side. And Radiant's free hitting. And we just discussed, it's a build about free hitting. He's not having any trouble with that. The ball's on here, probably waiting for the cooldown on Orianna's W. Nope. Elysia, he doesn't care. He's just going ham. He doesn't, he's just happy to get in there. Doing some good damage, but they're going to translate this. And this is the important thing, right? They've picked up some kills. They've won their third skirmish in a row. I believe it was a 3-for-1, then a 5-for-2, into this 4-for-1. But importantly, they're converting it into global objectives, right? It's one thing to get kills and pad your stats, another thing to take an inhibitor off it, take a dragon off it, take a baron off it. It looks like the inhibitor's the pickup here. No home guard boots to really hurt their positioning here, so they have a good judge of what's happening. They will be backing out here. Although Elysia re-engages, it might not be smart. It seems to be working out just fine though. And this is just kind of a snapshot of what's going wrong for Volf goes Royal here. They're just not in a position to fight. We look at the items here. I mean, Tristana's not doing too bad for herself. Speaking of not doing too bad for herself, unfortunately the Shockwave did take her down there, but Blade of the Ruined King into most of Infinity Edge. She's probably the completed Infinity Edge into maybe a Zeal from being a really scary threat. We look at Rise, he has that Rod of Ages, but importantly, I know Monte Cristo, always talks about Rod of Ages, Seraph's Embrace, 24-minute Rise, showing up at a team fight, getting multiple types of scaling and health out of that build. He has the Rod of Ages, let's have a look how long it's been ticking. He's had it for 5 minutes now, but it seems like he's a long way away from that Seraph's Embrace. You look down, he doesn't actually have any gold to spend, so he's about 2,000 gold away from probably the 24-minute part time for a Rise here, so way behind his Snow Buff. Whereas looking at the items on the Immunity side, Radiant's kind of set for damage. He'd like an Infinity Edge to get some sheer AD going, but Blade of the Ruined King, Phantom Dancer, Last Whisper, he attacks very fast, he has those Silver Bolts procs, and he doesn't care about armor particularly, so if he's able to free hit, which has been the story of this game, the story of this game has been so much AoE CC, for Radiant able to free hit at the back, taking no damage. So free hit is about, I'm auto-attacking, I'm auto-attack moving as Vayne, and I'm not worried about my position, I'm just worried about my team CCing everyone, being a strong tank line, and me free hitting. And she's been free hitting every fight, which is going to spell doom at this current item threshold. Apologies, a bit of cough there. And Orianna, she has that death cap, Orianna's teamfight damage with just the Athene's Unholy Grail from mana regen, a little bit underwhelming. When you have a death cap and a needlessly large rod on top of that, I'm just mousing over here, about a 520 damage shockwave, which is pretty intense. We've already seen the potential for Wombo with the Cataclysm into the command shockwave, into the Zac jumping. They have so much damage here. They might even elect to dive a turret. They're kind of just waiting for Swiper's lead here. If he jumps in with that massive slingshot ability here, they'll be going for a fight. He's channeling it here, I'd imagine mostly as a threat, just to be like, hey, back away from this turret so they can just free hit it. But if they like to go for a team fight here, under turret, I still would take immunity 10 times out of 10. I think they have this game in the bag. It'd take a massive mistake here to lose out. If you look here, a massive minion wave pushing down bottom is also another reason here. Immunity want to stay top as long as possible. Whether they fight, whether they engage, whether they just stick around, it doesn't really matter because that huge minion wave is going to take the tower down bottom. And look, they've decided to engage. Painting a word picture isn't my strong suit. I'm more about the analysis, but carnage. Kills everywhere. 3-for-0 exchange for immunity. I think they will end out the game here. 4-for-0. Zac's slingshot range is hilariously long. Reminds me of a Nidalee spear in terms of length. And it looks like immunity are going to be able to... we see Rady here. It was very low in that fight. Probably down to about 400 health or less. But he's using that Blade of the Ruined King, losing that lifesteal heal up. He's happy. They'll keep pushing on. And Australia wins this particular Battle of the Nations. It is a comfortable win from Unity. I mean, Volf goes raw for the first 10 minutes. They looked pretty competitive. It looked like they had the chance to take this game to that late point where they did have Rise, they did have Tristana, but it was all for naught. 25-6, 13k gold lead. GG, well played to Immunity.